Welcome to INS, the International News Service, your source for the most important weird news from across the globe. With news analyst Kevin Harrison, actor, comedian, and musician Mike Wiebe, and professional commentator Brian Camp. INS, the news you need.
It's my birthday. This is my birthday show.
Oh,
it has to be all about me.
Well, you know, it's a birthday. Is it? Are you down on your birthday? Sometimes people get a little blue. Sometimes people get a little, they get reflective and they start to think, what have I done with my life? You know, they start to think, I've made all these movies. I've introduced so many people to an alpha brain mindset and I've introduced them to vitamins that will help them grow stronger and better. What else is there? And sometimes a lot of people do this, and then they have to just go, maybe they go down to the YMCA and they pay the guy $20 and say, I'm going to need this sauna all by myself today. And then they just lock themselves in there and have a good cry.
And this is something that people do.
Apart from the crying, I don't remember doing any of those things today.
Well, a lot of people do that. I mean, it's fairly common.
That experience you described exactly is something a lot of people do.
Brian, I need you to record as well because I just lost everybody again.
Oh my God.
I tested this out last week. It worked perfect.
I'm recording now, I think.
All right. Yeah, it doesn't announce when the second person records.
Wow. So I've cataloged ghost copies of all of this just to demonstrate all the stuff that Mark has removed that I've said that's been poignant, relevant, and timely.
Are you going to release the camp cut?
Oh,
stand by.
Release the camp cut.
Release it. If there's enough of a call for it, I might.
Do you appreciate it when the British put an extra U, or I guess the only U, in cataloged, where it says cataloged? I kind of like it.
I like it. I like the extra vowels.
I like the extra U's. Color. I like it in color.
Behavior.
Favorite. I like it.
Neighbor.
And I know, people know me as a person of simple means, with simple tastes. But sometimes I like a little,
like a monk.
Yes, yeah. I eschew the audacious, but I like a little extra flair that the Brits are doing on their words. I think we lost something when we got rid of those, and I don't know why we did. Now, listen, I'm not saying that we need to go worship the Queen and King of England and kiss their royal heinies. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I like those extra U's. Give me them U's.
There hasn't been a King of England in like 75 years.
Well, I didn't like the last one.
Right. Don't forget, Mike's been with us for a very long time.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Not everyone has the indeterminate. He doesn't like to get into it, but
yeah, let's just say that the last one was trying to get his grubby hands on a certain amulet, and let's just say that maybe a giant suit of armor that was set up just to be decoration fell on him, and let's just say that maybe that sword accidentally fell the wrong way into his stupid inbred face.
Like big teeth face, like he has genetically engineered oversized teeth. I feel like
that doesn't sound like George VI to me.
Right when he got stabbed, he goes, ho, 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 and then he just died. And they went,
And I would like to correct myself. He's been dead for 70 years, not 75.
And how did he die?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. They don't want to talk about how a set of armor fell on him mysteriously.
Right.
He was walking around in his big one-piece nightgown with his sleep hat on, his elf-style sleep hat, and slippers. It had it was like a little saucer with a little kind of trigger on it, and that held up one candle.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And he was walking down the hall at night, and did that just happen? He was going to go get his midnight bread pudding, and
So, Mike, I have to ask: are you patterning your story after Scooby Doo, or do you think Scooby Doo ripped off their intro from you?
Oh, wow.
how has Scooby Doo been around for 75 years?
This is in the opening of Scooby Doo.
When did this happen?
What was the original opening of Scooby-Doo?
The regular one or the Triple X parody?
Right.
Well, I think the parody always comes
And
second.
weirdly started with the parody. Well, agree to disagree.
And maybe this will get a full knowing your podcast better. But there was a special. I'm not saying it will. There's one season of a show called The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo,
right?
That had Vincent Price on it, and that was my favorite. That was my favorite season. It was just them, and I think Daphne, and no Fred.
What?
Yeah, there's no Fred. I don't think Velma was there either.
Weird.
Was Scrappy featured in that one?
Scrappy, Scooby, Shaggy, and Daphne. And it was about these 13 ghosts that escaped, and Vincent Price told them that they needed to go get one, but I think there was more than 13 episodes, and they were just assuming that we children were not able to count.
Well, they escaped a lot, I'm sure.
Well, we went to public school in the 80s. I mean,
but they were powerful ghosts.
Oh.
Like, what could they do?
They were real ghosts. That was the thing with this one. They were
right,
like,
okay,
literal,
that's what I wanted.
This was like the weird thing. This was like the only Scooby-Doo that I know of where they were constantly fighting the actual paranormal.
And for our listeners who had sad childhoods, you may not know this, but Scooby-Doo was a cartoon wherein they investigated ghostly mysteries.
They know
and every single time. Well, not the ones who had childhoods bereft of television.
I guarantee you, there's some kids some like our early teen fan base, or some of the 8-year-olds or whatever.
Yeah, we have a lot of 8-year-old listeners
that maybe are not familiar with the IP yet.
Right. I'm sure in France they had to listen to a French version.
Yeah.
About a dog and his keepers who were hunting down some sort of baguette mystery.
Yeah, you would
like that happens a lot.
How do you say a Scooby snack?
Francois drove around an old what's a good French van? One of those like 3-wheeled dairy vans.
Yeah.
They got a lorry, a French 3-wheeled dairy van they converted.
Yeah.
Lorry is a British word.
Shaggy. Well,
they all smoke. Every single one of them smoke cigarettes.
Yeah, with like kind of pinched between their index finger and thumb.
Yeah.
Kind of facing outward.
Daphne kind of looked like she was French. She had a little bit of a French fashion sense, a little bit. Right. The little scarf there.
Even Velma's turtleneck wasn't a bad look.
Yeah,
for the time. And Fred wore that neckerchief. That's a big deal, right?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of different types of sexuality getting explored in those characters.
Sure. Well, I mean, Shaggy and the dog, right?
Oh no!
I mean, that was provocateur. That was a very provocative. It was provocative. I'll just say it was provocative.
That's the only part of the story that survived French translation was the sexual exploits of the gang, not necessarily the mystery solving. Wherein again, every mystery ended up being not a ghost or a monster or a ghostly monster, but some sort of real estate developer.
Yeah, it was a lot of real estate issues.
I mean,
a lot of real estate. Really, I think that they should have been hired in some sort of real estate fraud capacity.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
And I do wonder, it seemed like they were traveling all around. Why? Where did the money come? I take it back. Those are some rich kids. You know who's probably the richest kid of all? Fucking Shaggy.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why they put up with him.
Yeah,
true.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Zoinks! Meals on me, I guess. Who wants a shot?
That's right. He's got that purebred dog. He's probably got the papers for it. Those were expensive.
That's true.
Yeah.
Scoob.
I got some sick dank in my bag. And he was clearly, I mean, that was an obvious metaphor. They're doped up all the time, so they got the munchies all the time. They got to get the Scooby snacks. A lot of it was probably in their heads. Like, they didn't even see half of these, ghosts or goblins or robots, scary robots.
It was a scary robot.
Ghouls.
Ape.
Yeah.
There was an ape.
Ghouls.
Mummies. Zombies.
Yeah, white ape.
Yetis.
Oh, that's H.P. Lovecraft.
Or Sasquatch.
Well, I mean, I think, and that's where the sexual tension episodes really came through.
Well, sure. That's what kicked it off, right? I mean, it was a very pointed look at some of the things that happened. And obviously they couldn't show it because it's a kids program exactly. But yeah, I mean, Shaggy and Scoob, Shaggy, a bunch of his clothes get ripped off and he's covering up. Scooby-Doo has no clothes, but for whatever reason pretends to cover up on one leg with his paws crossed
covering up
in front of his groin.
His paws crossed and embarrassed. These Sasquatch just laughing at him, just cackling away. I mean, Shaggy and the thing, he's got like boxer shorts on and socks on,
right?
Which is not how it goes down in real life. But like he's still
well, it's a cartoon, right? They got to be careful what they show.
Oh, right.
And you can tell that he's embarrassed. He's embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
And on the show, it ends up being an old guy dressed in a Sasquatch body. He's like,
look how tiny your Scooby snack is. That's all you got for a Scooby snack, that little old thing.
And then,
he just the old prospector yelled at him from across the way.
It's an old guy who is insistent on keeping land because he thinks there's gold there or whatever. Yep. And he's trying to scare people off the land.
So he's wearing a Sasquatch body, not a Sasquatch costume.
Well, yeah, I mean, no, it's a costume. He's got it looks like, I mean, it looks, it's a costume, but it's just,
like the Japanese fella
again, it's a
and the
cartoon,
dog.
so it looks completely realistic. There's no in cartoon world, when you wear a costume, there's no anyone seeing that it's a costume. Mm-hmm. It might as well be a body.
Well, I think as we've established, cartoons are made by people in cartoon character costumes acting things out in front of a camera, right?
Oh yeah, the rotoscoping technique.
Did we talk about rotoscoping?
Well, don't even get me started.
Well, I know.
Have we talked about how I really want to get a painting that has a scary guy's face on it that I can take the eyeballs out and look through it? That is a number one goal for me, is to have a painting, slide the eyeballs away, and be able to look around the room. I don't know anybody that has one. It's crazy that nobody I know has one.
Well, it seems like something that as a kid you think one would be very like it. You see it so much, you think it's useful. Just like finding footprints, like that people leave footprints places, and that's going to help. Like you're going to follow those, and not like foot impressions, like in sand, but actual like people walking ink all day footprints. But I think the sliding eye thing is like, yo, man, that's what a great way to spy on people.
Yeah.
But then you got to have a secret hallway, probably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm down to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
have the square footage.
That's awfully brave of you.
Yeah. Well, that it is. You don't see those very much. And, quicksand has not been near the problem I thought it was going to be when I was a little kid. It's rarely come up in my life.
Nope.
And when it did, it was some post-punk band.
When was the last time you swung from a vine? That's something that you would think would happen a lot. Man, I see you thinking.
There was that trip to Honduras and the alligators. But that was like 20 years ago. So
Are you describing the game Jungle Hunt?
I was on a jungle hunt.
You did duck some boulders, right? Didn't you? You were walking up a hill and you found it necessary to duck underneath bounding boulders. Yeah, you could hop over some of them. Some of them, it was hard to time, as I recall.
Big ass scorpion I had to jump over.
This is a video game you're describing.
No, because I've seen pictures of it. Because there's the thing where you had the guy you were jumping over the guys that had like the poles or something.
Yeah,
and they were like kind of They were dancing rhythmically forwards and backwards, and they somehow made it over.
Were the pictures of Mike in 8-bit?
Not that I recall.
Sometimes it wasn't a vine necessarily, but I would just use my whip as a, I'd have to whip the tree and then just use that to swing over.
Right. I think you were able to free some kids with that whip too. Like, wasn't there an opportunity to
no, they're in cages, and I just fucking knocked the goddamn lock off.
Right.
So get out of here.
And that whole cliff face was full of them. Yeah.
That's the game Jungle Hunt. That didn't happen except for 25 cents at an old arcade.
I mean, maybe somebody based something.
Well, they made a documentary out of it, I think.
Maybe
didn't they?
maybe somebody owes me some IP money because this IP is my pee. Okay.
That's that's a subject for.
Are you guys ready to get the news started here?
I guess. Is that where we? Yeah.
This
okay.
IP is my pee.
Oh, and I'd like to remind the listener that we are midway through. Both feet are now in the pond that is phase 2 of INS. So we got a lot of treats for you this evening. This day or this morning or this late evening.
Whenever you're listening to this.
Whenever. We don't know.
The news team has had a real shakeup at the desk. We have our morning meetings have gotten a lot more prompt and sincere, and then we got corporate breathing over our fucking necks all the time.
I mean, Brian and us
Craig
are prompt,
is
but you're
10 days sober,
45 minutes late.
Well, who was on time today? Who was here before?
Me and Brian were here in the morning meeting.
No, I was here. We talked about all that crazy shit. Anyway, the news.
Oh yeah,
the news.
Oh, Kevin, over to you.
Welcome to the International News Service. We're your hosts. I'm Kevin Harrison, along with...
I am Brian Camp.
I am Mike Wiebe. And our correspondent producer, tech wizard, Mark Ryan is out he's out on the field. He's in the field he's undercover trying to get to the truth.
Try to infiltrate other news podcasts that aren't as good as ours.
Who is QAnon? We have some shocking ideas on who it might be. Stay tuned for the end of the hour.
Stay tuned for a shocking revelation.
Yeah,
shocking.
You can make a guess, but I promise you, your guess will be incorrect.
Yes,
when we reveal the shocking truth about the true identity of QAnon.
Yes, and there are 11 things right now in your house that can kill you,
at least,
and that probably will. We'll get to that at the end of the hour.
Someone called us and said they want you dead. Stand by, and we'll let you know who that was.
At the end of the hour.
At the end of the show.
For more on the celebrities that want to have sex with you, stay tuned.
Stand by for the truth about Whiteout.
So our first story comes to us from The Guardian.
What are they guarding?
Of the galaxy?
Did you say of the galaxy?
Of the galaxy?
You almost had an accidental nerd enunciation.
Of the galaxy?
Yes.
Oh, Star-Lord.
This story is all about Star-Lord and the other ones.
Not many people know this, but the original Guardians of the Galaxy... completely different lineup. Completely different lineup.
I love how we continually make fun of people who are interested in the exact same things we're interested in, as though somehow we're superior to them.
Yes.
It's been working my whole life. Yep.
We get haircuts slightly more often.
Maybe you guys do.
No, because I tried to get you to grow out your hair a long time ago, and you've never done it. And I was insistent, and you would not do it.
It was kind of long.
No, I tried to get him to grow out a Kramer haircut. In high school.
He was really excited about it. He would not do
it. It would have looked awesome because you had that jacket. You had that military jacket you wore all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And it would have been awesome. But that ship has sailed.
I still have that jacket in my
closet. It would have been cool.
Well, I don't know what Kramer looks like now, and now it's not as.
I don't want to be associated with
the zeitgeist.
There are reasons why he's drifted from the public sphere.
What Michael Richards doesn't want you to know about his past coming up. It is Michael Richards, right? Isn't that his name?
Yeah, that's correct. You got a name right. And you didn't ask if he was dead, and he's
Fuck off.
not dead. So, the Iron Age marks the period in history when ironworking techniques began use, and in England this lasted from 750 BCE until 43 CE when the Romans first arrived.
Oh boy, I remember that. That was wild times. That was a good time.
That was early amulet, right? Early amulet times.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of Chinese star prototypes that we worked on that didn't work out, but we had a lot of fun trying them out. I'll tell you that. Continue.
England didn't have any connection with China that time in history.
Oh, what? Marco Polo?
Yeah, that was like the 1400s, I think.
Now, first Marco Polo.
So anyway, very little is known about this period, except to Mike. Apparently, very little is known about this period because the first handwritten documents found in England have been dated to the Roman arrival. As a result, archaeologists digging at the site of an Iron Age home near Cambridge, England, were baffled when they stumbled upon a ditch filled with the preserved bones of 8,000 frogs that died at some point collectively during the Iron Age. It's not unusual to find frog bones at Iron Age sites, but as one archaeozoologist put it, quote, "We don't get that many frogs. To have so many bones coming from one ditch is extraordinary." What's also strange is that the bones have no cuts or burn marks, which suggests they were not eaten. Brian seems
almost as though they were by magic.
Some sort of magic that stripped them from their bones.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would.
Now, I'm hoping that
marks.
Well, it depends what kind of magic. Are we talking quantum magic? Are we talking astral magic? Are we talking sonic magic? Mm-hmm. Are we talking water, fire? Yes, firewood, magic would actually cinch them. But this reminds me of a tale once told of the Great Loveland War.
Oh, no. I'm so concerned.
I don't think the Loveland...
that happened between frog and man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Stonehenge was just a giant frog summoning portal.
Wow.
Where the Druids were trying to destroy and eliminate the population of sentient magic frogs.
So we covered that in an earlier episode. It was just a calendar.
Well, we didn't find these frog bodies then.
Right.
Well, let's finish the story, and then you could tell us about the Great Frog War.
Okay. All right.
Archaeologists have suggested that it's possible the frogs were attracted to pests in the area, such as beetles and aphids, and they could have all fallen into the ditch and died. Or they were all hibernating together during an especially severe winter. Of course, if this happened, then it would be likely there were other ditches like this around England, and none have ever been found. It's also possible that the frogs could have died during some sort of ritual, since frogs were seen as a symbol of fertility among many ancient cultures.
Well, okay, sure. Yeah, there's one shooter in the fucking JFK. Yeah, okay.
Right.
What else? What else do we got to say? Okay, right. Totally. We totally went to the moon. We totally went to the moon and fucking jumped around up there.
Are you busting open a 3,000-year-old frog mystery?
Well, the reasons they're saying are clearly just not even good attempts to cover up what really happened.
Right. And it's not even hard to figure out what really happened.
Well, what was that?
It's obvious, Kevin.
Well, spell it out for me. I'm not good with riddles.
This was the Froggy Town Massacre. This was the Froggy Town Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
I think you mean Froggyland.
There's no wonder that hundreds of Ohioans go missing every year.
I mean, that's probably true in every state.
By the Loveland frog. Are in every state, are they kidnapped by a frog wearing a blue conical hat with stars and moons on it, holding a wand that glows and wearing robes and whispering arcane sayings as he points the wand at you?
You've seen the hieroglyphs in the pyramids that have Visigoths fighting frogs.
No,
I mean, do you think they just made that up?
They didn't invent Visigoths.
They didn't invent that.
Yeah. Well, then why do the Egyptians worship frogs?
Yeah. How about that?
Because they were a symbol of fertility. like we covered in the story.
Okay, so well, so symbol of fertility. Let's go kill 1,000 of them.
Right.
Why would you do that?
They hate babies. Is that what you're?
You don't
what it was?
You don't want to bang no more. Women don't want to catch a dick, and men ain't trying to find some strange. I don't think so.
They're trying to. What were they trying to find?
I don't think so. Strange. I don't think that's.
Welcome
I mean,
to phase
clearly
two.
this has to be related to the fabled Loveland War,
Oh.
when the Visigoths fought the frogs
Oh.
Yep.
and narrowly defeated them.
Well, and I mean, it's not like the Visigoths ever recovered. When was the last time you met a Visigoth?
There weren't any.
Yeah, exactly. They died out.
They might have prevailed, but
They probably
Not
died closely thereafter.
There weren't really any Visigoths in England in the Iron Age.
well, no, because they were mostly wiped out by the frogs.
That is the beginning of it's the beginning of the Iron Age, and then there's no more Visigoths. Why? Because they killed each other.
Right.
Because they killed each other. The Visigoths threw scorpions on the frogs, which is frogs' only weakness.
Right. Well, and what made it so horrifying is, and what led to the people don't know about this. What led to the Iron Age? A lot of people don't, but I think archaeologists and serious scholars know this. That iron is immune to frog magic. So they found that they had some protection from the magic of the frogs, and that's what emboldened them to go to war.
I don't think that's right.
No, Well, you're not a serious scholar then.
Yeah. You just read what you're reading the prescribed texts that that all the people that don't want you to know certain things. It'd be bad for business if
Western medicine doesn't have every answer. So.
Yep.
Are you saying you know more than an archaeozoologist?
Well, that's a made up thing. So yes.
Yeah, I do.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, guess what? I also know more than an astrobotanist. Okay.
I agree with that.
We're gonna get angry letters from astrobotanists now. Thanks.
There aren't any.
I know more than a solar geologist.
I liked it in phase 2 that we're not afraid to take these stands.
Wow.
That's like a big part of phase 2 is we're like, even though we are having to deal with corporate, we're also telling the truth. We're speaking truth to power. That's what's happening right now. Is we're speaking truth to power. The truth is that magic with a K practicing frogs are coming to take your sons and daughters away. Whoa. And if you're not going to do anything about it, I will.
We have 5 simple remedies to protect yourself from these frogs. Exactly. Stay tuned and we'll tell you all 5.
All 5.
Oh, wow. So
stand by.
Can we do an Alpha Brain Monkey Mind ad right now? This would be a good time to cut to that. Okay, I'll just take that as a yes. Alpha Brain Monkey Mind.
Oh no.
It's the type of pills that keep you good. Good all summer long. Good from what? Well, good from the sun, good from the water, good from amphibians. Back to you, news team.
Thanks for that compelling.
I just want to point out the FDA does not approve any statements made in that advertisement.
Well, of course not. They're tied in. Like,
they've proved
of course
very
they
little.
don't.
Proved very little.
There's no money to be made in actual cures, right? I mean,
they got to keep people sick the whole time.
So our next story comes to us from Indy 100, which is part of the Independent newspaper.
From Indiana.
Actually from England.
Another story across the pond.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess
you ever wonder why they call it the pond? Because frogs live in ponds.
Oh, shit. Yes.
This story is actually pretty international. In mid-June, NASA announced that it would commission a study on UFO phenomena. This is also known as UAP phenomena. A few days later...
let's not call it that.
So we're all in agreement.
Right.
It's UFO, and you're not fucking... Oh, it's called KFC, not Kentucky Fried Chicken anymore. It's just... Fuck that. It's UFOs. Anyway.
No, I wanted to point it out for the people who may have been misguided by the media. We're bringing them back into the fold. Yeah. UFO is the proper term.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, for people who took UFOs seriously forever as an insult, Because the only reason they would rebrand it is try to convince people that it's something they need to pay attention to. But everyone who's known that UFOs exist and that they're a real thing, not including me, because I think I've very, very loudly stated there is no such thing. But for you guys, it would be an insult to change the name just to appease other folks. So.
Yeah.
You know who uses the phrase UAP? Hillary Clinton. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
I didn't go to UFO college in order to have to go back to UAP college.
Fair.
Because somebody got too goofy with a couple letters.
Right. I'm just glad NASA's going to spend money studying weather balloons and sunspots.
We'll get to that. A few days later, China released a report saying its Sky Eye telescope may have picked up signs of alien activity. And then China quickly deleted that report. Not to be left behind, Russia then announced that it would also ramp up its own UFO research after several recent sightings by pilots. Now, Canada has announced that it will become the latest country to ramp up UFO research. In May, a Canadian member of parliament named Larry Maguire broke protocol and confirmed that UFOs are real and that Canada should, quote, take them seriously. Mr. Maguire then wrote to the Deputy Minister of Natural Resources Canada and urged him to take action on UFOs, specifically because he warned that they were a threat to nuclear safety and security. The Deputy Minister then confirmed that Canada would in fact collaborate with the U.S. on its UFO study. But, Mike, don't get too excited that much will come of this because the U.S. study on UFOs is budgeted at just $100,000. This doesn't seem like much of a priority.
Yeah.
When NASA's budget for 2022 is about $24 billion.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to calm down still. So, but how much money are the Canadians and the other countries putting into it?
30 toonies.
China deleted its report, so nothing. Russia didn't say, and since Canada's piggybacking on the U.S.
Well, it doesn't mean nothing. They're just not talking about it, I guess. So we don't know.
Okay.
We don't know with China.
None of these countries have announced how much they're dumping into this, except for the U.S. that said, we'll throw the salary of 2 middle-class people at this.
Well, that's just what they're doing on the books. They won't be as duplicitous as the Chinese government and completely lie about what they're doing, but they will mislead about the source of the funding and how much is actually being funded.
Yeah.
For all we know, they've announced it and added $100,000 to a secret fund of $12 billion that they get annually. We don't even know about.
A slushy fund.
A slushy fund, exactly.
I don't think NASA doesn't really have a slush fund. They got to account for everything.
Oh, really? Well, don't they have to account for how come there wasn't 8 feet of moon dust when Neil Armstrong was hopping around there? Apparently they don't.
Oh, are you a moon landing denier?
Are you saying they laundered the moon dust?
I'm saying that there was supposed to be like 8 feet or something of moon dust on there, right?
I don't know that,
but you
okay.
see those videos, and it's just Neil Armstrong fucking hopping around in a way that looks like wire work.
That's
just
it.
Waving at the camera. They're fucking rolling around in a little buggy, not even trying to pop a wheelie.
Now let me ask you something about that. So if he was doing wire work, why was he not also doing kung fu? Because the two seem to go hand in hand.
Well, they hadn't invented kung fu the way they hadn't invented wire fu yet. You know what? It's in all the it's in all the sci-fi books. China's always the first one that finds alien contact. You ever notice that?
Yeah, they are, aren't they? It always seems like you were led to believe that a Western country is first contacted, only to discover that either that same alien group or a different alien group had made contact with the Chinese government 10 or 15 years prior, and we just didn't know about it. And maybe that's where some sort of crazy technologies come from.
Where's the most people? Where's the biggest? Who's the biggest country? But I don't know. Maybe aliens. I don't know if they comprehend like the countries and the tribes that we have. I guess it depends which ones. Are you talking about the Nordics, the reptilians, or the Greys?
Blue avians.
Oh, yeah.
The blue avians.
How could we forget? The Picts.
The Picts were ancient people, like predated. They were like the earliest English, the earliest people in the UK.
Yes, but where did they come from?
Right. They came over as slaves to the frog people, leading to the Loveland War.
Some believe that life here started elsewhere. That's the opening for Battlestar Galactica callback.
You're saying there was a war between frogs and alien British people in England named the Loveland War, and then as a result, Loveland, Ohio was named after that?
Ding, ding, ding. Sounds like somebody just woke up. An alarm just went off and someone's just wiping out their eyes and seeing a little bit of the world for the first time. Looks kind of different.
Yeah.
It looks kind of different when you clean the shit out of your eyes.
I love aggressive know-it-all guy.
So our next story is a bonus story. If you want to listen to this,
bonus.
If you want to listen to this, go to our Patreon and subscribe at least the $3 level. That's the Knights of Kevin level. And you'll have access to this and all our other bonus stories. There's like 30 up there now.
Get them up with that thing. If we could clear, I think when we do the bonus thing, if we could clear a James Brown's sample, we had get on up on that thing. That'd probably be good. But just listener, imagine that. You get me singing it instead.
If we get enough Patreon listeners, we will license James Brown saying that for the intro to all the bonus stories.
Yep.
That's a guarantee.
Well, there's about 10 episodes of material that only a percentage of our listeners have heard at this point.
That's
a lot of people haven't heard those yet. They're missing out on, and unfortunately, we forget what we've talked about when. So I think we probably reference them all the time and without remembering that we were referencing them.
Yeah, find out why we're talking about.
I think Mike still brings up Coach Casey.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, Coach
Casey launched the most long-running annoying.
Yeah.
So anyway,
that's what got Mark pissed at us.
When you say
no
pissed,
pun intended. Huh?
Yeah.
So this story, I'm going to give you a little taste. It involves true crime, grocery shopping, and it involves some very, very dumb criminals.
That sounds great.
Next is our arts and culture corner. Cue the arts and culture music.
Art.
So this
sculptures. Mural.
Poetry.
Wow.
History of pop culture.
This is a terrible
origami.
Yeah, that's Mark will make something with that.
So this he'll make something of it.
Yeah.
So this story was submitted by Tony from the band The Swingin' Utters.
Oh, hey.
He's also a Patreon subscriber.
He's a good man.
Tony rules. I hung out with him in California recently.
Is that the San Diego show?
That the San Diego show. Yeah,
awesome.
We toured with one of his bands, Cobra Skulls, years ago. Hi, Tony. Love you.
So this story is from Guitar Magazine.
Oh boy.
Oh, this would be good. Is it about sweeping arpeggios?
It's about dive bombs.
Controversy is nothing new to the former singer and guitarist of Oasis, Noel Gallagher. So it should come as perhaps no surprise.
Well, actually, Liam is the singer, Noel's the guitar player, songwriter, backup singer, and then he occasionally has a lead song that he sings.
Okay. So all of that of Oasis, Noel Gallagher. So it should come as perhaps no surprise that he's been declared an, quote, enemy of the people and banned from China.
Good for him. Yeah.
Do you know what this is about?
No, I don't. I'm excited. Okay. Listen, I'll fucking listen. I'm excited for anything about Oasis. I love Oasis. And when I was young, when they first came out, I was like, because there was like tons of hype around them. And it was that thing where it was like, they're so hyped up that I was like, I don't like this. And then I started to hear how much. So the band is Noel, who's kind of like the main writer guy that kind of does everything,
right.
and then the singer Liam, who's like really cool and has got a great voice, but he's also like a crazy maniac. But they were all kind of crazy maniacs, and these two brothers fucking hate each other. They get in fist fights all the time. One time in the studio, one chased the other one with a cricket bat, and I think like fucked him up real bad with a cricket bat. And there's like at one point they had a MTV. This is way back in the day. They had an MTV Unplugged, and Liam, the singer, the normal singer, claimed that his voice was too fucked up to do the show. So they were like, well, we're just going to do the show anyway. And Noel sang all the songs, because Noel's got a great voice too, but like the kind of the sound is a bit more Liam or whatever. But Liam showed up to the gig, and he's like just smoking cigarettes and drinking and watching the show and like laughing. And at some point they get into like a yelling match with each other from like the control booth in the bottom. And it's just so entertaining. But their songs are actually really good. There's like one of their albums is like pretty like perfect record. And at one point they like had like the most people that ever went to go see like one band. They played I can't remember what stadium, but they sold it out for like many nights. And it was like when you see footage of how many people are at these shows, it's like hard to wrap your brain around that that this many people would go to even a festival of music. It's fucking crazy. Right. But continue. I just wanted to give backup for somebody that might not know Oasis.
So Gallagher recently revealed that 20 years ago he'd applied for a visa to play in China, and then, quote, about a month before we were about to leave, I got a letter saying, you lot can come, but you can't because you did, because of this thing you did for the Tibetan people. Apparently, back in 1997, Gallagher played the Tibetan Freedom Concert in New York. The event tried to book all of Oasis, but Noel Gallagher was the only member who actually showed up. Gallagher also said he'd forgotten that he'd even done it. Gallagher tried to appeal the decision by telling Chinese authorities he was, quote, not arsed, unquote, about Tibet. But his application was nevertheless rejected, and he has been banned from China for life. The ban, however, does not apply to Gallagher's brother Liam or to the other members of Oasis.
It doesn't apply to Googsy. It doesn't apply to...
Who's Googsy?
They all have... he's like the bass player, I think. A bunch of them have real funny names.
It's weird that China would get so upset about that, but like wouldn't even say anything about the watermelon smashing. Like that just flies under the radar.
So the watermelon smashing? What is this?
He's confusing the very, very famous rock band members with the once very, very famous, but not near as famous prop comedian Gallagher.
That's what the story. I mean, you said Gallagher, and I know he had some stuff with Tibet, I think, at one time. So, and he had a brother. Didn't he famously have a brother who? And they could both. Could do it, right? They were both.
Yeah, there was Gallagher and Gallagher 2, and they both would tour around. Gallagher was like, do you remember as a kid Gallagher being really big? Like I remember him being on HBO all the time, and they would make it. There was like a really big deal that he was going to have a new special, and I remember being very excited, like as a child, like a young child, watching it, and I was bored by it because it's Gallagher and it's not. I don't know who his humor is for, but it definitely wasn't hitting like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old me. But I knew he was going to smash something with a mallet.
Right.
He would like pick up the mallet and walk around the watermelon while saying something, and the audience of adults would go, and me at 6 would go like as well. it's really funny to think that that we had that same reaction. But
well, you were saying and then that once too, right? Like, is that?
Oh, he's used a number of different. There's a number of items that would get the treatment, and then if you're up front, you got to wear plastic tarp because you're in the splash zone. But I remember at one point he smashed the watermelon, and I screamed as loud as I could. You know, I was like, "Yeah!" When he did it, my dad was like, "Shut up!" Yeah, you can't. You know, this is near Father's Day. Like, I love my dad, and I get it. I would have been real annoyed probably with me and too a lot, but you know, in retrospect, Dad, you can't expect a 6-year-old to not get excited about someone smashing a watermelon with a giant cartoon mallet. That's literally, and especially when you've never seen that before, that's a big deal for a fucking 6-year-old.
Right.
Did your dad not know what was coming? Was he just surprised?
No, maybe? He knew. I think he knew it was coming and knew he was going to be annoyed and just did not know that I was going to be that.
Well, he's a showman. He built the suspense leading up to
it. Yeah.
The Oasis guys have a ton of money, right? They don't need any money from China, do they?
No, they're
why do they care so much?
No,
they're insanely rich. If they are like the band. If they do a reunion, but they claim the brothers hate each other and they like always talk shit about each other on Twitter and stuff like that. And there's like stuff in the press about them saying, and it's usually catty, funny shit. You know, it's usually like, oh, that fucking wanker probably has one beer and falls asleep. You know, like just shit talking. Sometimes I've thought like they've probably met up, and I don't know if this is true at all. Maybe they really do hate each other, but sometimes I wonder like, have they met up and gone like, all right, we're going to wait 15 years and we are going to ask for, you know, whatever, $500 million or whatever insane amount of money, because like they are so huge in the UK. Like they're I think that they, like when they did those 3 shows, so many people went that it was, or no, this was it. That at one point, like it was something like that the record sold so much, I think it's Definitely Maybe is the name of it, that like I was like 1 in 5 of every person in the UK owned a copy.
All I know is, didn't they do that one Champagne Supernova song? Isn't that their hit?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I know a single other Oasis song, and that song.
I guarantee there's. Them. I think there's 5 that you would hear and go, oh yeah, totally.
Okay, I've had that happen with bands before. I'm like, oh yeah, you just kind of start adding up like songs.
Like counting Champagne Supernova, there's 4 other that you would hear and immediately go like, oh yeah, I remember that. Maybe you're probably not hearing it on the reg, but still, there's Oasis is a band that you can still occasionally be in a bar and it'll come on somewhere, right. Or a supermarket or like whatever, a Starbucks or something like that. You know, I am surprised that Liam's not the one, because he's usually the mouthiest one that. But I guess I don't know. I figured like, if Liam got kicked out of China, I guarantee you he would say some very non-PC things to the Chinese. Maybe do a little bit of Mickey Rooney at them, you know?
Oh, no.
In researching this, I was surprised. I thought Liam was the worst one, but then only Noel? Only Noel had a controversy section on his Wikipedia.
No, Liam's like the more brash, crazy one. I feel like, well, they're all. I mean, at the height of their thing, they were all like maniacs. They were like just super like crazy, hard partying guys, and they had like a feud with Blur, because
I read about that.
Yeah, that like Blur were kind of like the posh art school kids, and Oasis are all like these scrappy like blue collar working class guys, and their dad left when they were a kid, and the dad started showing up like when they were super famous, and they were just like public like, fuck you fucking wanker, get the fuck out of here, piss off.
Well, good for, I can appreciate that. That's good for them.
I do hope that they, Like if they were to get back together, like I can't even imagine if they could easily pull off like those really famous shows again. Because there was like this one record that like just like united England. Like there's a documentary about it, and it's just every single person in England was like, we love this band. And then they never could quite match that, because who could on their later records and stuff. And then in the later records, they definitely were probably partying and drinking and not getting along and all that kind of stuff more. So it was kind of more difficult to happen. But if they've only gotten bigger since then. Now there's like generations of people who love them. Like I would love to see them get back together for something, but it might not happen just because of some very silly spite between two knuckleheaded Cockney brothers. Well, I don't know if they're Cockney. I don't know what makes you Cockney, but okay, yes.
Whoa, what do you mean? What's going on? Is this a phase 2 thing?
Mm-hmm. Oh. This is our section, Getting to Know Your Podcast Better. Sometimes here at the International News Service, we reference something that might not be as commonly known to you, the listener, as it is to us, who are learned historians. And as you know, for this month, we have been doing the Glen A Larsonaissance, in which we cover the works of Glen Larson. Now, the last 2 weeks, we've covered successful shows that have maybe they didn't last long, maybe they only lasted a couple seasons each, but their impact has continued on. The first segment of the Glen A Larsonaissance, we covered Manimal, and this one we're also covering another show relegated to more obscure corners.
That's right.
The little show,
a less successful project.
Project, but we're talking about it. So does that mean that Glen A made a mistake? I don't know, because it's getting covered here on the International News Service. So maybe it's more to meet the eye when we're talking about Automan. This show from 1983 to 1984 was about a police officer / computer engineer who
so he built computers.
Sure. He built computers in the police office he was not a fed, he was a police officer in an area. Okay. But also sometimes the government liked to talk to him, but make it clear he worked for the police department. And it was a bunch of computers that looked like big chest of drawers that have blinking lights randomly,
like under translucent panels, like somebody put a Simon behind translucent panels.
Exactly. And so he was working on this, he was working with his computer, and one night there was actually there was like a bit of an earthquake, and he was also doing a thing, but it was mostly his top-notch science knowledge, and he created a living hologram that has part of he programmed it with a lot of his identity, but he was also programmed to be better than him, handsome, charming, smooth, with the abilities that he doesn't have, like to fight crime and to dance. There's a lot of dance that's going to happen in this.
All right.
Automan. Automan sort of looked a little bit like Tron, kind of constantly moving blue on a black outfit. And he was created by this police officer. And Automan also, it was a busy day because he didn't just create Automan that day. He also created a floating cursor, a little, on the show, an animated little dot that would fly around. And that dot had the ability to create holograms. And they say hologram a lot, but I'm a little confused in that these holograms are all solid material. There's no hollow to the hologram.
That is not a hologram.
It's not a hologram. But the cursor, the sidekick, was a little bit randy because the police officer had programmed it to have the same taste that he did, which is he liked a certain blonde lady in the office. And so the little guy would kind of buzz around him and be a little bit randy. Anyway, so the little cursor can shoot lasers and create a car or a ton of different objects for Automan to use. Automan's powers are, there's something with electricity. He can kind of go into computers. It's pretty vague. It's kind of whatever they needed to be at the time. Also, the guy, the police officer, and I got to tell you, he was played by a certain Desi Arnaz Jr. That's right.
Oh.
Lucy and Desi's son.
The drummer.
Made themselves... I don't... Well, he was the son of a drummer.
That's
but
why
he was also in a music project.
Desi Arnaz.
He could jump into Automan's body, right? Like Iron Man, and jump around. So did Iron Man steal his whole steeds from Automan? Listener, you gotta tell me. I don't know. Maybe. So Glen A Larson. So he apparently Warren Ellis, the famous writer, Harlan Ellison, famous writer, Harlan Ellison.
Yes,
he used to call Glen A Larson Glen A Larceny because Glen A Larson stole every idea is like a direct ripoff of another thing. Alias Smith and Jones was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid,
but superior.
Probably. I never saw Alias Smith and Jones.
Really?
What else? BJ and the Bear. Either. BJ and the Bear is very, very clearly stole from Any Which Way But Loose.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
But he always would like fight these things in court and go like, that's just coincidental. But this one, he was very open, like, no, I wanted to do something that looked like Tron. Some guys came into Tron. He was just like, the movie Tron wasn't very good, but that stuff looks good. I like the idea I like that whole idea it was coming from, and it really has nothing other than computers and glowing blue suits. And so he makes these cars. The big deal, I think, as with all these 80s shows for a young, how old was I then?
In Amulet years or in conversion?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, you got to also think about the reset that happened around, with the
right. People would catch on.
Well, it was during that little Loveland uprising that I had to deal with. Some of the magics got a little funky, but so they had a Lamborghini Countach. It was the first show on television with the Lamborghini Countaches. Oh, wow. And what they would do is they would do these. They would all the hard angles on there. They would like put this like special tape on them, so when you put light on it, they glowed. So it kind of had to look like it was kind of like a little Tron car there, right? Yeah. Looked like a Tron car. Well, guess whose Lamborghini that was?
Glen A Larson's.
It was Glen A Larson's very own Lamborghini. He was thereby able to charge the production for using the rental of his own Lamborghini.
Wow,
which was pretty good.
Smart.
But Automan, he didn't stop there with the Lambo. He was also able to create a helicopter, a motorcycle, a plane, and even just one time a tank. But the tank was pretty disappointing because they didn't like do any of the tape stuff. He just like made a tank, and it was a regular ass Sherman tank. I guess the Sherman tanks don't have any hard corners, to put that stuff on.
You wouldn't deflect missiles or
but it
projectiles.
was a real pain in the ass to drive that Lambo because it only turned in 45 or 90 degree angles. So the guy driving in the seat would always slam to the side really hard, and then Automan would be confused. And Automan was kind of a fish out of water guy, where he was super, super smart and kind of just talked like this, sort of like a superhero from an old TV show, and like real handsome guy. And he, the actor, that dude's name was Chuck Wagner. And he was a song and dance man. So there was a mini opportunity that they wrote that in the show where Automan would have to learn to dance like Saturday Night Fever and disco all his way through the floor. They'd shoehorn a whole bunch of reasons for Automan to have to dance. And he's the Chuck Wagner guy. This is like, he did a couple other TV spots, but for the most part, he's remained consistent in musical theater. So yeah, now they put all these crazy fabrics on him, so everybody kind of looked glowing and stuff like that. There's even an episode where he and everything was named the auto car, the autocopter, the autocycle, the auto tank, and one time he had to play the auto guitar. That's right. There's a scene where he has to get a guitar and he's just ripping leads the whole time.
Nice.
But it's very clear he is not really playing the guitar.
A lot of sweeping arpeggios.
Sweeping arpeggios, yes. Not unlike the guitar jamming of one Mr. Noel Gallagher.
Mm-hmm.
But sadly, despite all these glowing reviews, you guys are never going to believe this. It was up against some tough competition. It was up against Scarecrow and Mrs. King.
Ooh, that's a good one. Bruce Boxleitner.
And it was up against TV's Practical Bloopers.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's a winner.
Bloopers and practical jokes. So there's no going against that. So, and it cost $1 million an episode to make. So it got canceled real fucking quick. I don't know what made people think to take shots on stuff like this. It is so insanely bad. But I guess, Larson had like all this success with like The Fall Guy and all this success with, Knight Rider and shit like that. But there's one episode where Automan has to take on the personality of a dark version of himself. And you know how he does it? He goes and watches a series of movies about a vigilante cop named Mad Eddie. I suppose they couldn't afford to say Dirty Harry on screen. Mad Eddie. I learned this from Mad Eddie. Yeah. And he pulls out. Man, that whole Glen A Larceny, looking at kind of a real breakdown, like everything is almost directly taken from another thing. Like it's pretty right on, only just watered down. And I kind of remember thinking that as a kid. I kind of remember realizing like, feels like you guys are trying to cash in on Tron here.
Right.
And I remember being like, I was happy to watch anything. And I was definitely happy to watch shows that had, obviously Tron stuff was something that I would be super into as a kid. But I remember still being kind of disappointed with the show. Like I didn't verbalize that, but I kind of remember go like, you'd think that a show about a Lamborghini that takes only right turns and a guy that glows all the time would be a lot cooler.
Well, I just like that. Much like Manimal's, what is it? Shark in a swimming pool that only happened one time. There was a one-time tank in this. Like that's there's this consistent like fuck it, he'll turn into a tank. He'll make a tank. But why didn't they? And this is maybe more of a general question, but I mean, I think when I was a kid and I saw stuff like this, that was kind of a rip. I don't know that I knew what they were ripping off, but I certainly like connected it with the thing a little bit. Like, but it didn't occur to me it was a ripoff. It was just like, it's a show like that. Why? I mean, would it have been that difficult just to make a Tron TV show? I mean, I think the technology was so because was it really they that find cutting edge at the time? Yeah, like it was really expensive. Like, and it's just like his instead of like those glowing strips, like there's kind of some glowing kind of strippy parts, but mostly like it's kind of like green screen and on his like chest, and they just kind of like chroma key in some like crazy looking shit, and occasionally he'll even go like, well, watch what happened on the security footage, and they'll show like the security. It's just a very simple thing, but apparently back then it was just a lot more complicated to do. Like now, like we can do that on our computers like super easy
on our phones,
but like you couldn't. It was a lot more difficult back then, and so I guess just like crazy expensive. So I mean, it did pretty bad at the time in the ratings, but like for any show to get the ratings that it got, like I mean, it did awful, and it got like a 13 share or something like that. And
that's crazy today, though.
Yeah, like the highest rated thing is like a 0.5 share or something like that. There has not been any. They only released Automan in the UK. They released figures. They released some. Game. There was a game for the ColecoVision, an Automan game. They did a small run of toys, but it was mostly just the vehicles in Automan because there's nobody interesting on Automan except Automan, and really he's not that interesting at all. But I got a lot of information from this. I watched a couple documentaries about the show. One of them was from the makers of the show, where they got the cast back together in 2012. And man, for a show that was roundly considered a failure, that cast sure. It's not just that they had fond memories of doing it; they seemed at least coached to really think they did something spectacular. That something.
Wow.
They really kind of talk about it in a way that it was art being
groundbreaking.
Yeah, and just the relationships between these characters, and the names of episodes, and just describing all the amazing guest actors that they got to work with, and some of them were some like notable old man character actors, but it was like this this one woman was like, just pinch me, I can't believe I'm getting to work with Roddy McDowell or something like that. And it wasn't even Roddy McDowell. Like, it was people whose names I can't remember.
That'd be cool to work with Roddy McDowell.
Yeah, but I don't know that I would need to be pinched.
Right. That's not pinching. That's just like,
I don't need to get hurt. Yeah, I guess that's at about it for this episode of Get to Know Your Podcast a Little Bit Better.
Did the makers of Star Trek rip off Automan for the Data character in The Next Generation?
Ooh.
I think the makers of Star Trek ripped off the makers of Star Trek, and Data was Spock, but not Spock.
Well, that's an excellent point, Michael.
That wraps up another week of the International News Service. Find us across social media at International News Pod. Email us at internationalnewspod@gmail.com. If China or anyone else asks, tell them INS is the podcast of the people. Check out the INS merch store at Redbubble and our Patreon. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the International News Service. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. INS, the news you need.